anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Christine Gibson. I have been working with CEA for about 20 years now. I started as a teacher using the program. I became a consultant training in the program, and now I am running the company Collins Education Associates. And our goal, for anyone who doesn't know, is to help teachers improve the instruction in their classroom using a variety of tools, a lot of them centered on writing, but we are really focused on that instructional practice, getting kids thinking, keeping kids engaged, and building their content knowledge as well. So Cheryl McDonough is here today for just a little taste of some of the things that we do. The topic today that she's talking about is measure what matters. And I am going to turn it over to her. Thank you guys for being here.
I am so excited that people cared to come out to a little bit of PD in the summer. I would never have done that. I'm just going to be honest about that when I was a teacher. But good. So I'll make sure that we're at least engaging. All right. Okay. Measure what matters. What does that title mean to me? It means instead of doing the broad kinds of assessments that we've traditionally done, let's target what is going to matter the most to kids for progress. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of interactive stuff in a minute. Norm, it's going to sound familiar to you probably. All right. What should teachers be measuring when they are assessing? What should we be measuring when we're assessing? So in the comments, can you real briefly describe for me what we should be measuring and 2 ways we can do it? And there's no right and wrong here. This is a brainstorm. What we should be measuring and 2 ways we can do it. Or in the chat. I said comments, I meant chat. Right now, Peter is student of the day. There's time for him to lose that, but right now he's number 1. Come on, Kevin, you can catch right up to him. I know you can. All right, about 35 seconds left. Ooh, is it Faison? Am I saying that correctly?
As on, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good, interesting answer. All right. Excellent. So all of you had answers that I love. Nobody said something like we should be assessing if they can memorize these words. So I love what you've put down. So I'm going to start real quickly with Peter. Peter, I love this because it fits in exactly with what our framework does. We're strong believers in quick writes and exit tickets because those are not just assessments for kids. Those are teaching tools for you guys. So I love that. And Faizan, students' behavior, body language while taking them. You can make notes in a tracker. That's an answer I had not anticipated that I think is outstanding. We can tell if we're hitting the mark with kids by watching them. And I love that. I hadn't even thought about it. Good. Kevin, skills and content knowledge. Oh, we're going to get to that in a second, Kevin. You're on the game there. Using success.
And I'm with Peter with respect to how to measure that. I missed that part of the question.
Okay, it's okay because there's no right or wrong. In our framework, we call this type 1. And it really moves the kids forward because they don't have to worry about being wrong. They just have to get into the game. So Kevin, you're as good as if you answered everything. Don't worry a bit about it, okay? Hang on. Norm. You're muted. You know that, right?
I try to stay muted as much as possible.
Yeah, and I encourage that. All right, what do you have there? Talk to me about that.
Using success criteria to having that as your guiding force and making sure that you're gathering your observational evidence as you walk around the classroom, listening to students and making sure that they're discussing to the level that you expect, And then also if they're doing self-generated, where they are creating their own evidence that is not driven by the teacher.
Wow, excellent. In a minute, I'm going to turn over this whole webinar to one of you guys. Measure understanding and oh, Bernadette, I skipped you. Sorry, I didn't mean to. What students have learned, think, you do a think, a pair share, choral response, or quick write. I love all of those. And all of those, Bernadette, are right on the money with what I'm going to be talking about in a minute. So good job. Christine, measure understanding and application, do now or exit tickets. Good, excellent. Oh, Bernadette, you're hearing an echo? If everybody turns off their audio but me, that sometimes helps. And then just turn it on when you need to talk to me. So Bernadette, okay, good. Okay. And that's, who do I have after Bernadette? I'm going backwards. Is that it? Have I gotten everybody? Yes? Okay, good. Christine's like my spotter today, okay? All right, so you guys all reported that out for me, but on the next slide, I think we need to be measuring transference. And everybody always looks at me and says, huh? What do you even mean by that? What do you mean by measure transference? So who thinks they can tell me? How do we measure? What does transference have to do with assessment? If we don't move kids, and it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter what the perceived ability level is, which is often not the actual ability level. If we don't move kids to have the ability to take anything they understand in our room or in our lessons and move it to any new or different situation, they're going to remember it long enough to take your test. They're not going to remember it as Wiggins and McTighe, where I got a lot of my passion about good assessment, said, we don't want them to remember it for 30 minutes. We don't want them to be able to talk about it for 30 days. We want to run into them on the street in 30 years and have them still understanding how to apply those learnings to real life. So does that make sense to everybody? And you all touched on different ways. I think you did a good job with that. If we do type 1 entrance or do nows, we find out before we start teaching what kids actually know, or we find out what they took away from the lesson before. So those are assessments, but they're a tool for you as much as the kids. You know, if we do exit tickets, we go, oh, any of you here ever have that phenomena happen where you think, I was on my game today? I'm telling you right now, I was good. And you get your exit tickets and you realize, but I must have been in a different class than these kids. So what's the most important tool that we can have as skilled and gifted teachers? What do the best teachers all have? And transference and exit tickets give you a tool for it. If you want to be the best at your craft, you need to have a mirror. And every day you need to take a look in that mirror and kind of change the paradigm that some schools have about like, oh my God, this is what those kids did wrong today. What could I do better tomorrow? And your kids will give you that answer in the exit tickets, or you'll know, hey, I was okay today. No need to fix that hair, right? So, but that's what I mean by transference. Have any of you ever had the phenomena happen where a student was one of your best students in the class, on their game with everything, goes to take one of these high stakes tests, a state test or something else that's important for your school, and they bomb it? I know I've had that happen. I've got kids who I thought are going to be magic on the SATs, and I'm like, dear God, why does that happen? And I'm going to wait for somebody to answer, even though I don't want to run out of time. Why does that happen? Kevin?
That they haven't been able to transfer those skills from the classroom into their work in another scenario or setting.
They absolutely get it with you, but they don't have that deep level of understanding that they can transfer it to those questions on that test. Good, good, good. All right. So can our word for the day be transference? Am I giving the kids the deep level of knowledge they need to transfer this somewhere else? Excellent. I love it when everyone agrees with me. I find that we're all happier when that happens. Okay. Hang on. All right. We already talked about this one, but I wanted you to see I'm using Canva and I just made a really nice thought bubble there. So I want you to be very impressed with that. Okay. All right. So you got to apply the learning to different situations, new or different situation. You have to be critical thinking. You have to have the kids to be able to solve problems. The kids have to take it beyond just the mere material and the knowledge to understanding. So that's the difference. That's what transference is. And by the way, I used to give a great knowledge comprehension based test that the kids would not be able to tell me in a year anything that we did. I was great at that, but I was outstanding at it. Okay. So we've all been there. I had to rethink it as I got older and I realized we have a ton of different kinds of learners in our room. And just like we have to differentiate what we're teaching or how we're teaching, we have to start to think about how are we assessing and really able to find out what kids know. All right. All right. Can you assess transference with multiple choice or true and false or fill in the blank or matching? I gave you some hints down at the bottom. One of the things, thank you, Norm. One of the things that I say to teachers, if it's something that a kid can get right by accident, it's probably not the best way to assess. Can we agree on that? So if you're a good test taker, like I was a great test taker in high school and never went to class. I could always pass the test though, because I could figure out the call of the question. I'm not saying get rid of these. What I'm saying is don't end with these. Make these be the introduction to get the kids kind of like an appetizer. All right, we're going to get you into the subject and do a few of these kinds of questions. But then we're going to move you to the meaty stuff. We're going to move you to the critical thinking. And we're going to move you to be able to move these to other places. Too often, I think assessments that I look at end here. Begin here and assess their knowledge, but then have to move that knowledge up the critical thinking ladder to the level where they can transfer it. Does I hope everybody, do you all agree with me on that? This can be a beginning, but not an end. This could be a quick interim assessment to see if the kids are even listening. I know you guys don't have that problem. Oh, where's everybody from? Kevin, where are you from?
Barrington, Rhode Island. I teach at Barrington High School.
Barrington, Rhode Island?
Yep,
Nice. So you're New England.
I am.
Excellent.
Well, not all myself, but I'm in New England, and it's
okay.
extremely hot here today.
I'm in New Hampshire.
Oh,
And it's awful. I'm not going to go outside. I'm just not going to go outside. So thank God for things like DoorDash now, because I'm not leaving. All right, good. Excellent. So nice New England guy there. Peter.
I teach at the Randolph Technical Career Center in Randolph, Vermont.
Do I know you, Peter?
You've visited my classroom once or twice.
Oh my God. This happened to me with Norm Potter too. I was running a training in Ohio and this is during the pandemic. And I had like 40 windows open on my screen. And I'm like, geez, that guy looks familiar. And then I get around to him and it just said Norm. And I said, I used to know a Norm who looked just like you. And he's like, Cheryl, it's me. I was like, oh, all right, Peter. Well, it's good to see you. How's everything in Randolph?
Great, now that it's summertime.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Randolph. I'm always confusing Randolph with Rutland. Randolph is my real favorite because people there pump my gas. Excellent,
That's
Peter.
right.
That is right. Okay. So good to see you. And Bernadette, where are you from?
Morning. Thank you for asking, Cheryl. I live in South Jersey. I teach at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and we have been very good friends with everybody at Collins Associates for a lot of years. So it's actually nice to meet you today.
It's nice to meet you too. And I don't want to tell you how long I've been with Collins Associate, because then you might be looking at my shelf life. But I've been around longer than Christine. Let's put it that way. Okay. Bernadette, welcome. It's nice to see you. And Norm, you are from?
Northeast Ohio,
Yeah. But I met you in.
Southeastern Michigan.
That's right. I was a longtime consultant for a couple of schools in Michigan that Norm was involved with. So, and that's when I was doing the 5 types of writing. We've really expanded now, and we're really trying to talk to teachers about all of their craft and how we can apply all of our great instructional tools to that. So this is going to, ultimately, people will use Collins Writing, which is not really a writing program. So let's call it Collins Instruction, to do all of the things that we're talking about in our mini webinars. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go. Are you ready? This is my favorite. Oh, Christine is from New Jersey, but she's in Maine right now. So she's got us covered. She's got it covered. I can take care of the Vermont, Rhode Island people, and then you can take care of the Jersey, Ohio people. All right, good. All right. Instead, use authentic tasks, which are usually uncheatable. I read this great article about assignments that are uncheatable assignments. What that really means is kids have to think of them on their own. They can't just memorize like the old vocab books. Nobody here is as old as me. We used to have these vocab fill in the blank books. You are? Okay, Bernadette, good. I used to make a ton of money in the CAF before I would fill in everybody's. Nobody remembered the words. So we want it to be an authentic assignment. So instead of assessing vocabulary that way, you might say something like, in our conference today, when we're talking about the presentation you're going to meet on Friday, I want to make sure that you understand how to use these 5 words when you're talking to me. Okay? So students can show what they know and genuinely understand. They can demonstrate evidence of learning. And as some of you know, like Christine and Norm and Peter, I went to law school. And one of the things that we learned in law school was the best evidence rule. And that meant you had, in order to win a case, you had to assess what was the best evidence. And I kind of apply that here. Say to the kids, I need evidence that you know what this is. You can't just regurgitate what you memorized. I need evidence. So if they're doing a review of a movie, I want 3 pieces of evidence from the movie backing up what you've said. If they're doing a journal from a Civil War soldier, I want 5 things in there that the soldier would have authentically eaten. I want 5 things in there about where they traveled. So that's evidence of learning and understanding, as opposed to just saying, what year was the War of 1812? And I tell people this story often. When I was in high school, I was a really bad student. That's a true story. I wasn't an unintelligent student. I just hated high school, but it was the 70s. But I took this US history class, and I'm somebody who loves civics and history and everything that's going on. I failed it. Oh my God. And Christine, you didn't even help me correct that misspelling. I blame Christine on this. She was supposed to help me proofread it. But anyway, this guy would give us these like 100 question tests, and it would be all the acronyms for all the federal agencies and their sub-agencies. And we had to tell them what it was. I flunked that every time because that had no meaning for me. But then we each had to pick a research project, and we had to pick something from history that we wanted to teach other people about. And I chose Salem witchcraft trials. And I loved it. And I compared it to McCarthy. I mean, I was in 9th grade, but I loved it. And I can still tell you everything about it. That's an example of somebody like me. That rote memory stuff is doing nothing for me. Give me something to wrap my head around. But true story, he gave me a 0 on my research project because he said, you've gotten nothing but F's all year. You couldn't have done this. That was changed pretty quickly after he met my mother with the principal, because I was always a writer literally from the day I was born. But that's another big mistake that day. Don't assume, I've learned you don't assume that about kids, but I will always remember that. And I think all of you can think back to the place where you learned something that you're never going to forget. And I think you'll look at it and say, that's when I deeply understood it. They gave me something authentic to do. They gave me something that had context for me. They gave me something real world. All right. And this is just a few that I thought of. There's millions. I mean, I do. Kevin, what do you teach?
English.
Oh, one of my people. One of my people. So this is an English/social studies assignment. Instead of talking to the kids about regurgitating for me what the amendments are to the Constitution, we might have them write a friend of the court brief about Miranda warnings. And you have to defend it with 3 pieces of case law and blah, blah, blah. That's evidence. Okay, that's what we're talking about with good high-level assessment. Okay. We need to remember that assessment is part of the learning cycle. If you give a student an assessment and you find out, and it's a good assessment, but you find out he really can't move this information to a new place, like he doesn't deeply get it now. That shouldn't be the end, but it often is. But if we're really about the learning, what would we do? I would probably do something like, Norm, you did a great job working on this. Oh my God, your hard work is so much this. I just want you to sharpen up this piece of evidence for me. And can you go back and find a little bit of backup and some examples? But man, am I happy about the work you did. So suddenly Norm is not the loser who failed his assessment again. He's a winner who's going to just go get some more winning done. We didn't make him feel bad. I know that a lot of people don't celebrate the redos like I do, and I get that. That's a philosophy. But for me, it is part of the learning. So, and it's also not necessarily part of right or wrong. So when I give that Miranda warning assignment that I talked to Kevin about, the question is, you're writing a friend of the court brief saying whether Miranda should be kept or thrown out, because they talk about throwing it out all the time. There's not a right answer there. What's right or wrong is the evidence, right? And the kids, and you can do that all the way down to 1st grade, by the way. Oh, so Bernadette?
Cheryl, I really appreciate this slide and your explanation of it. And I'm making a couple connections because I also appreciate you acknowledging the other types of tests, multiple choice, true, false, because and you mentioned that they if I heard you correctly, they're helpful because we know if kids are listening, are they getting anything? And just a quick connection I want to make. Most of my own children were blessed to have one particular teacher in middle school, and the way she taught is exactly the way you're describing. During the week, I always use her as an example. She had a lot of quick, multiple choice, short answer type things to sort of those quick formative assessments to see if they were getting it. And it held them accountable. They were able to monitor their learning. But then these examples that you're talking about, where you're applying it to real world, it always ended with that.
Right.
They were the summative. And I saw the difference in their learning versus my 2 younger children who didn't get that.
Right.
And I would argue my older kids remember what they learned.
Exactly. They remember it because they understand it. That's why they remember it, because they get it.
I love your explanation on this slide. I want to be able to quote you on that. That's great.
You can certainly, Christine, can they get a copy of the slides?
Oh, you don't need to send me a copy. I'm just handwriting. I'm going to credit you that because I think that's awesome.
All right. Well, and plus I've got a spelling error that I'm going to blame Christine. I have to.
I'm going to tell people too that you didn't proofread.
But you know what? What are you measuring today? You're measuring if I have good information about assessment. Today is not my spelling test. And that's kind of one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit is we have tools that are going to help you do all of these things. And one of our tools is called focus correcting. In some places, Peter, we call it focus competency, which I kind of like. It's what you're saying to the kids. You have to show me that you understand this. So Kevin, because you're my people, it takes us sometimes like when we do a big English assignment, it can take a half an hour to do a paper. If you move to focus correcting or focus competency areas, the kids know what they're going to have to do to be successful, which is really good for them because they're like, oh, wait, I can be good at this. But B, it cuts your time down about assessing because you're only assessing what's important. And sometimes we lose kids, by the way, because I'm going to pick on Norm again because I've known him so long. Norm's a terrible speller, but he really understood everything about that Miranda assignment. But because he had 10 words misspelled, he failed it. And that's just not what we're assessing. You know, we might talk to him about polishing it up and stuff, but he knew his stuff. And once we start to give kids that kind of indicia of being a winner, and they feel like, oh, wait a minute, maybe just because I can't spell, maybe I'm still smart. It's amazing how that confidence goes up and they do better at everything. And I think those of us who've taught writing, Kevin, we get that kind of because we've always known that. Well, not all of us, but some of us have always known that. So if we stop thinking about it as being a winner or a loser and start thinking about it as just building a learning environment where we can move everybody ahead, I think that we're probably going to get better results.
Yeah, our school has a senior project, and we have since 1998. And all seniors need to complete right now it's a 6 to 8 page research paper as well as 20 hours of field work in the community on a topic reflected of it. I'm not going to go through what senior project is because probably most of you have heard about it. But with the paper, we have a rubric in where specific areas are doubled, content, organization, etc. And in the lead up to the final draft of the paper, we'll often do that focus correction area on one of those. And give more intense feedback on that and suggestions for improvement. And the kids will take that and ideally move on. Also, peer editing, asking peers to focus on organization or maybe one of the standards that's a little more accessible or with which we've done more practice. So that's one of the ways we do that.
Excellent. And we have always had protocols for all of those things. And I think for teachers who are saying, I don't even know how to give feedback, like I don't know what I'm going to say. If you have focus correction areas, you're giving feedback on those. So it also, especially for new teachers, it gives them a target to reach. All right. I can't believe it's already 10 o'clock. You know that, Christine? All right. So I taught a class this spring, a graduate class called Measure What Matters, and that's where this kind of evolved from. But one of the articles I read, I took this quote out of how do we really know if students are learning, not just completing tasks or complying with expectations, but genuinely developing their understanding. That's Fisher and Fry about collecting evidence of learning. And if you can find that article, it's really a good article. But what I want you to take away today is everything that they're suggesting we should be able to do, we have a tool for. And people don't often think of us as an instructional program, as a methods program, but we are that. And we have these tools. So in another few weeks, I'm going to be doing another short webinar called The Magic of the Mistake. So that when we teach kids to celebrate the mistake, when we do that, they become learners. Because if you're terrified to make a mistake, you're never going to move forward, right? So the magic of the mistake. So come back in a few weeks if you enjoyed what we did today. And then there's the closing slide about Collins Education. If you do this QR code, you might get a free resource. Okay. And on the front page of this, I'm going to hang on. There we go. On the front page of the slideshow was my contact information. So I am C. McDonough at collinsed.com. Okay. Christine is K. Gibson at collinsed.com. And I highly recommend going to our website So, because you've got so much free stuff there. Teachers say to me all the time, you guys give away more than anybody we know, which might be bad or might be good. Okay. Oh, Kevin, thank you for that. Kevin just put in the link to that article. The other one is, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I got that notion of uncheatable from an article I read. It's like uncheatable tests or uncheatable assignments. If you look that up, you'll find it. That was really a good article as well. All right, so I'm going to go around the room briefly because I mean, it is 11:02. I'm just going to ask you a takeaway and a question. Norm, do you have a takeaway from today and do you have a question?
My takeaway is that assessments can be varied and need to be varied if you're going to be running a differentiated classroom, and no questions at this time.
Okay, excellent. And by the way, when you give these kinds of assessments, like a journal or a letter home from the theater of war or a movie review, kids find those a lot more fun. They really do. So it also engages the kids, and kids who are engaged are going to do better. All right, Peter. By the way, you're getting brownie points today. I'm gonna email Nika as soon as we get off. What do you have for a takeaway today?
My takeaway, I think, is that I sometimes limit myself in the types of feedback that I use to gauge my students' knowledge, and that I can work better to expand some of the things that I ask them, because my classroom isn't like a traditional high school classroom. It's CTE, having them do more writing to show what they know as they learn how to be electricians can be useful for them and myself. And no questions at this time.
Okay, and really what Peter's talking about is career and technical schools. The writing's not about a 5-paragraph essay. The writing's about engineering or electricity. It's like, can you tell me what this user's manual should say? Or what, and that's what we mean by we have to take it to transference. They have to be able to take what they've learned to their real world. And we're doing that in a lot of CTE schools. Okay, Bernadette, takeaway and a question.
I appreciate the range of assessments. You've deepened our appreciation for the different types. Quick question. Would you agree there's great value in creating a lot of these other types of products in the classroom as opposed to outside the classroom? And we
Oh,
didn't even use
absolutely.
AI. We didn't say AI today, and that was really refreshing because all we keep hearing about is AI. Sorry, everybody, that I just even said it, but would you agree there's value in the classroom?
To be honest with you, real quickly, for 22 years, I've been part of a project-based school that I actually started. And every project we did, the kids could only have the materials we gave them. They had to work in front of us as groups. So I do believe I don't want to see parents' projects. And I'm not going to lie, I was guilty of it when my kids were little. And I don't want the kids whose mom and dad aren't able to take them to Walmart to fail because they don't. So I love stuff done in front. I love stuff done collaboratively. An assessment doesn't have to be individual, it can be collaborative. But that's more, I could talk to you all day, and I do. So if anybody has interest in that, you can let me know. I do talk to teachers for a whole session on this. All right, Kevin.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Bernadette.
I think sometimes I take for granted the transference, especially in my AP classes. I teach AP Lang and Comp juniors. And I'm assuming that, looking at some of the models we look at, identifying different rhetorical strategies, et cetera, that they've got it. And oftentimes I will ask them to, emulate that and write a short piece that incorporates 2 or 3 different rhetorical strategies, but not always. So I think sometimes I lean on the supposition of the kids in front of me, whereas with my senior world literature classes, I'm much better at following up because my expectations, and I know this is horrible, maybe aren't as high with respect to what they can do coming out of the chute. And as I get to know them as learners, I understand what I need to do for all, if not some of the kids in front of me. But in AP classes, I think I make the mistake of supposing or believing that they are able to do more than I have,
And
they've demonstrated to me.
I taught AP English as well. And I found that their critical thinking was sometimes completely shut down because they were so terrified of being wrong.
Yeah, they're good at regurgitating.
Correct. So that's why my next thing is going to be the magic of the mistake. And I don't know when we're going to do that, but probably before the end of the summer, Christine. Yeah. Okay. And then
I was gonna add, Cheryl, because as you were asking about takeaways, that was kind of what was resonating with me as you were talking about these authentic projects and giving students a chance to make revisions so that it doesn't feel so final. And that's, think about the value of that, like setting up a growth mindset. And so often we have kids who are just working for the grade, but they don't really care about the learning. So I think that taking it to that next step with the magic of the mistake will be great. The other thing that resonated for me was also, as you're talking about these real world applications, there's so much research out there about how content has to have meaning in order for kids to really be able to learn it, and they need to be able to make connections to their own lives or to other things they know. And by doing those kinds of authentic projects, it's really getting at that piece of it. Multiple choice questions, memorization of facts and dates doesn't generally have a lot of meaning for kids, but having them write a journal entry from the perspective of someone experiencing those events, that's the difference. So that was what really got me thinking.
All right. Now not purposely, but I ignored Ryan, Maddie, and Fazan because I didn't have a picture. And because I'm so old, I just realized that they're down there. So Ryan, if you're with me, what do you have for a takeaway or a question? Maddie. Okay. Fazan.
I'm
Oh,
here.
Ryan.
This is Ryan. Sorry. I mean, going last is kind of hard, but I think the one thing that I wanted to bring about was how you reinforce the concept that you need to do more than you're just true false matching multiple choice a lot in our school, and teachers are okay with just doing that because that's the easy way out.
Correct.
And these kids have no idea how to apply concepts taught, in different contexts, as was mentioned, and they just, like you said, can't regurgitate things a week down the road.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's what stuck with me out of understanding by design. It's not 30 days. It's not 30 months. It's not 30. We want them to be able to meet us in 30 years and tell us what they still understand.
I like that 30. Yeah, I like that whole 30 years too.
I know. I mean, I might be numbers aren't my favorite thing, but that's the concept. But Ryan, where are you from?
A little school right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Dr. Collins came and visited for a couple years, about 10 years ago. So we're familiar with Collins education and everything.
What is the name of your town?
Called Cornell Elementary School.
Okay. Because three of us went to a town together outside of Pittsburgh, and I'm wondering if that was it. But that good. I'm glad you came here, and reach out if you have any further questions, okay?
Will do. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, you're welcome. Maddie, are you out there? I don't think Maddie's here. Fazan?
I'm here. I didn't really like
Okay.
what you had to say about assessments, particularly how those kind of recall questions are more of the appetizer types, and they don't like the recall is great, but they don't, as you said, if you can get it right by accident, I think that really stuck with me the most. If you can get it right by accident, it really sets the learning. So I like that a lot.
And one of the things that I always fall back on, and then I got to let you guys go. I wasn't supposed to keep you so long. I fall back on, I had a Dr. Tom Martin in law school. And he said to us the first semester, it was civil procedure. And he said, oh, by the way, guys can use all of your books and materials for the test. And we were like, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, we love that so much. Blah, blah. And he said, well, I'm not going to have you practice law without a book. And we were all like, yeah, it's not about having the materials. It's about knowing how to use the materials. So there's nothing wrong, say in your class, Kevin, with kids having the novels on their desk. What's wrong is what's the problem is they don't know how to apply the knowledge from those. So I always think about that. It's not about memorizing stuff. We have Google. I mean, let's be real. The kids will Google anything in 10 years. We have Google. It's about what we do with that information. And we're not teaching kids how to use that information. All right, Christine, do I have anybody else here that I don't see?
No, I
Okay.
think you got to everybody.
All right.
So thank you everybody for giving up a little bit of your summer for us. You're here, so I assume you know that we have 4 more of these scheduled, about 1 a week at various times. So if you haven't signed up for the others, please do. Even if you can't make it, sign up, because anyone who signs up will get a copy of the video afterwards. And as you know, Cheryl already showed you the QR code, so I hope you'll continue following us so that you can learn about more opportunities like this that you can use to kind of enrich your experience and share with your colleagues. So thank you so much for being here, everyone.